Hi guys, my name is Adnazbi and I'd like to wish you a warm welcome to the Funny Finance Guy. In today's small little episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I started my investment journey. I think one of the reasons why I want to share this particular episode with you guys live is that number one, I wanted to be as authentic as possible. I wanted to kind of tell you guys how I started investing. And number two is that with me going live, you can actually see it's not too polished or it's not too cut. Whatever I say, it comes from the heart. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of recorded this particular episode live. So over here, I'm going to talk about my small little journey on how I started investing. And I remembered when I was about 15 years old, when my mom and my dad and all their friends used to talk about the stock market. And at that point in time, Malaysia actually had like the hottest stock market, and they were one of the most, I guess, they super performed amongst all the ASEAN peers, and Malaysia was known as the ASEAN Tiger. And when I was a kid, I remembered it was a wonderful time. Almost everyone was in the stock market. In fact, some of my aunts and my uncles, they were accountants, and eventually, when they saw so much money can be made from the stock market, many of them became remisers or they became people trading in the stock exchange. So I had that investment bug bitten at me when I was a teenager back in Malaysia, back when I was a teenager. But having said that, I wanted to invest in the stock market, but as I think I'm going to share the same sentiment as many of you guys, whereby where do we even start if we have the interest in investing, you know? So, being a beginner and being a newbie, what I eventually did was I started even reading books on investing. And at that point in time, there was no internet. So whatever information that we wanted to get, we literally had to go to MPH, or we had to go to Borders, or we had to go to the bookstores to actually buy books. And back when I was a kid, to buy a book, it cost about 30 or 40 ringgit. And as a kid, buying an investment book, it is just so very expensive. So on one hand, I knew that I needed money to invest. On the other hand, I didn't want to buy books to help me, teach me how to invest. So that was where that was where the, I guess, problem lies. Information was very expensive back then. So what I did was I became creative. And how that I became creative was I borrowed books on investing. And I read all these wonderful books on investing. And they talked about, at that point in time, there were not many books based on the Malaysian Stock Exchange. I read a lot of books based on the US Stock Exchange. They talked about the S&P 500. They talk about NASDAQ. They talk about the Dow Jones and how the Dow Jones gave returns of 15 to 20%. And they gave us this thing where if you compound your money on a yearly basis after 20 or 30 years, you will be a millionaire. So needless to say, I was really inspired to start investing. And at the age of 15, after investing in ASB, I told myself, you know what? I want to get in the stock exchange. I want to double or triple my money. So I told my dad, I said, Dad, could you help me with my investments? And at that point in time, there was no online brokerage. So what he did was he introduced me to a lady, which was, so bear in mind I was 15, so this lady was about 40. And every time when I had to call my broker, it was really awkward. It was this generational gap. When I was younger, when a young kid were to talk to an older person to give the person's, I guess, the buy and sell order, it's not the most comfortable thing. So so when I got introduced to that particular broker, the next question was, the broker asked me, what did I want to invest in? There were banks, there were plantations, they were stocks ABC, DEF, GHI, you know, all sorts of these ticker symbols, which I did not understand. And I actually, when I was actually creating this content, and I realized many of the subs over here were asking me questions, you know, where do I start? How do I start? And in trying to answer that particular question, I had to go back where I first started. And trust me, I was so afraid. I was so afraid. I just didn't know what my next step was, you know? So when having the broker, she asked me a bunch of questions. I couldn't quite answer her questions. So over here, what I did was I asked for advice. And I hope you guys don't follow me when I was a kid. The next best, the best person I asked advice from was my uncle, which is a speculator. He tends to just speculate based on stocks. I asked another uncle of mine. He tends to be a day trader. And a lot of the advice I got was like stocks which had very weak fundamentals. I think in the later episodes, I'll talk about fundamentals and whatnot. So I followed their advice, and guess what happened, guys? I actually lost some money. And the worst part of it all is that I did not know why I lost the money. Okay? So today, after knowing all that information, right? After being in the industry for about 15 years, I just want to tell you guys that, you know, I congratulate you guys actually even coming on a YouTube channel to listen to investment advice. I mean, gosh, you guys are so much braver than me. And I like to just say that, you know, congratulations. But I think, and another thing I'd like to say is we are living in an informational age where information is, number one, so easy to get using YouTube. Number two, we can Google everything. The problem in today's age is not everything we hear is accurate. Okay? You can tell that in this channel, I want to be 100% transparent. Guys has been asking me, should I invest in certain stocks or should I jump in the market at this point in time? And as an investment channel, I would like to tell you guys, you know, always invest. That way, you guys will listen to my advice. But having said that, I always tell you guys the truth. I always said the market is very volatile at this point in time. I'm sure whatever stocks you guys bought, the returns were maybe 10 of maybe best case scenario returns were maybe 5-10%. But in amongst all your friends, maybe a good 80% probably lost about 5 or 10%. The market is super duper volatile at this point in time. So this is the, I guess this is the paradox of our time, where there's just so much of information. Where do we go from here? So like I said, always follow these two advice and you guys will not go wrong. Number one, everything has to make sense. If you look at all my trend analysis, it tends to make sense, at least in my head, okay? And when you see people buying more of a particular product, eventually that will translate to revenues and that will help the companies. And number two, always remember that we are investing in businesses. If you remember these two rules, you guys are maybe 80% there already. The rest of the measures like PE ratios, ROE, ROI, EBITDA, margins and whatnot, these are just fancy words to measure how well a business does. That's all it is. So in the next future episodes, I want to talk about all of these issues. But having said that, I'm going to also have live episodes. That way, you can actually listen to me ramble and you can hear my stream of consciousness. And that way, I think you would have a better grasp of what's happening. And I just want to share with you guys. I guess I'll try to be as unbiased as possible in all my information. Granted, my live sessions may not be as polished, and I do apologize, but yeah, I'd like to thank the number of participants that came in, and I want to thank the future viewers that's going to view this particular video. and know that I'm actually going to record more live sessions. That way, we as a family can earn money and thrive in this new economic, new economic paradigm. Everything is changing. The old way of doing business, I feel, is dissipating. So with that, I would like to thank you guys, and yeah, hope to see you guys in the new episode. With that, see ya.